The scenario that I'm going to build out today is we took the masterclass on how to build a highly secure S3 bucket. So the particular scenario that I'm talking about is we're going to have an S3 bucket whose job it is to interact only with compute instances in a particular VPC. In other words, it's a place to store data. It's not a place to share data with the outside world. Only the compute instances in a VPC should be able to interact with that S3 bucket. So it's a pretty narrow use case. There's a million use cases in S3. That's the one I'm going to be kind of illustrating. But then at the end, when we're whiteboarding, we're going to explore some others. Oops, Zoom's getting in my way here. Let's see, I can move it down here. All right, let's go to S3 and let's start this by, oops, I lost my video. I didn't need to do that. Okay, let's start this by just walking through creating a bucket. So, and we told people up front that the level of experience required for this class was none. And we're going to keep to that. So I'm going to do some very 101 explanation as I go, and I'm also going to get into really advanced topics. So S3 is the simple storage service. You can think of it as a global web server. It stores objects. There are trillions of objects stored in S3. It is incredibly robust. It is incredibly fast and incredibly feature rich. So for example, when you watch Netflix, all that data is coming out of S3. I've heard it is as much as a fourth of the public internet. So it is a giant store and disseminate service. All right, the way it's organized is using what are called buckets. A bucket is a kind of container. You think it's kind of like a server, but it's not a server. It's a container that you're using to some particular purpose. And then you put objects in it, you put files in it, right? So what we need to do to start is give it a name, and those names need to be unique. So I'm going to call this the masterclass demonstration bucket. So that's my bucket name. It's not showing me red, which means I get, by the way, this is not a class on all the features and capabilities of S3. This is a class on how to build secure S3 buckets. All right, so I've given it a name. I do not want to copy settings. And now we're going to walk through each of these features and what they mean and how you should think about them from a security perspective and how they interact. And I'm going to just go through them in order. I had a really hard time figuring out how to structure this class, but this definitely seemed the best way. So first of all, versioning. Keep all versions of an object in the same bucket. In other words, when a new version is posted, the old version remains. I generally think this is a good idea. In fact, if you care about the data, it's a good idea. And what I mean by care about the data is if losing it or having it be corrupted could cause problems. And here you can think of something like ransomware, right? Like if somebody can go in and encrypt your data and then you don't have access to it anymore, boy, is it nice to have versioning turned on because you can just tell them go away and roll back to the versions prior to them encrypting that. So generally speaking, I recommend this. Now it is going to increase your costs some, but this class is about creating secure S3 buckets, not cheap S3 buckets. And you'll find there's tension between those things. So I'm going to go ahead and select versioning. I'm definitely going to turn on access logging. Okay. Oh, I should have chosen that as, let's just go to here. And access logging means we're just going to log the requests to the bucket, much like a web server does. Now, one thing to keep in mind, unlike a local web server, the access logging in S3 is what Amazon refers to and the industry refers to as eventually consistent. You are not going to see this stuff happen in real time. And the amount of time it takes to get that information is going to be pretty variable based on what Amazon are doing with them internally and with their other customers. Object level logging, I strongly recommend turning this on. So what this is going to do is every call against that S3 bucket to get an object or put an object in it is going to go to another AWS service called CloudTrail. Usually takes 15 minutes, but it can take a day. They don't really have a promise there. So again, this is not useful for real-time knowledge of what's going on, in my opinion. 15 minutes is pretty slow, and next day is way too slow. But you do want those records. It's going to cost you some money. Now, I don't have a CloudTrail enabled for this, but you're going to want to, you can create a CloudTrail, and then you can put read and write events to it. So we would turn those on in a real environment.